So the first round of the NBA playoffs is officially over. It's in the books. Now begins round two, the NBA semifinals. And I gotta say, first round of the playoffs was very, very, very entertaining. It was very entertaining. Um, we had some great series, couple of shockers, couple of outcomes that were heavily expected. Um, as far as my individual picks went, um, I got most of them right. I got most of them right. Um, some of them were a little more right than others, if that makes sense. Um, there was like I said, there were a couple of shockers, a couple of series outcomes that I did not expect. I'll get into that in just a minute, but it was a very entertaining first round. It was as entertaining a first round as I've seen. Um, I've seen some very good opening rounds of the playoffs, but this one was pretty good. It was pretty good. One series that I think of that comes to mind was the Knicks and the Pistons. That was a really good series. It was it was the Knicks won the series in six, um, but those were six really really hard fought games. That might have been the most that series and probably the Clippers and the Nuggets series up until second half of Game Seven was were two of the most hard fought. Well, you know what? Then again, the Warriors and the Rockets series that was pretty intense too. But the Knicks and the Pistons, the home team only won one game the entire series. The Knicks won game one, and then the road team won the rest. No more games were won by the home team on their home court. Um, and it kind of stinks if you're a Pistons fan because the Pistons they had their opportunities to win those games. They could have very well upset the Knicks in that series. They had game one. They had game one, and they just took their foot off the brake. It was almost watching that series. It was I was getting flashbacks to the Sixers when we played the Knicks last year. It was a hard fought series that which the Knicks also won in six games. And watching the Pistons lose that first game, it was eerily similar to seeing how the Sixers lost game two. I believe it was. I believe it was game two where the Sixers had the Knicks dead to rights, and we botched an simple inbound pass. Um, the Knicks got like one or two shots off. They missed both shots. Sixers couldn't corral the rebound. They couldn't close the game out, and the ball finds its way to Dante DiVincenzo, who hits three ball, ties the game up. Knicks eventually go on to win. Um, and the Sixers they were just fighting an uphill battle from there. The Sixers they had firm control of the game and really of the series at that point because they were poised to steal one on the Madison Square home floor, and then they let up. They took their foot off the gas, and um, even though we won a couple of games after that, we had a spirited effort by Tyrese Maxey in one of our wins. We were just fighting uphill, and we couldn't recover enough to be able to push the Knicks to the limit. And that's kind of what I was reminded of when I was watching the Pistons play against the Knicks. They had a couple of games They had the first game, and then they had a game. Actually, they had games 3 and 4 in their sights. They were almost at the finish line, and they allowed the Knicks to just distance themselves. And I'm not going to take away. I'm not going to try and discredit the Knicks. They made some big shots. That closeout game where Jalen Brunson he called for an ISO at the top of the key, and I believe it was Asar Thompson who was guarding him, and Jalen Brunson he just took the game over. I mean, you can say what you want about him, call him a flopper. You can say he's whatever, but that was as cold a shot as I've ever seen in all my years of watching basketball. Just absolute stone cold, man, ice in his veins. I had to give it up. That was nasty, and to do it the way they did, and to in that circumstance to put Detroit away, um, that was that was nasty. That was nasty. So I tip my hat to the Knicks. I'm still not for them winning, but I know I know a great player, a signature shot when I see it, and that was as good a shot as I've ever seen Jalen Brunson hit. So yeah, Pistons they've got a good squad. They've got a good young squad. They'll be around, but it just wasn't enough to take on a more experienced team like the Knicks. Um, and then you think about the Warriors and the Rockets. That series was decided last night. Um, that was back and forth. There was a lot of trash talking. That was a physical series as well. As I expected, the Warriors won the series, but Houston pushed them to the brink. If we were on the verge of having another 3-1 discussion about the Warriors with their core members still intact, Steph's still there, Draymond's still there, um, Kevon Looney, I think he was part of that 73 win Warriors squad, Steve Kerr. So if the Warriors had blown this series and the Rockets had won, we're having a discussion. I mean, Steph's still a great player. His legacy is in stone, but 2-3-1 series losses, two series where his team gives up a 3-1 lead to lose in 7 games. That's a part of his resume too. And you know, the narrative around Steph might be altered, but the Warriors they have a wealth of experience on their team, and it it um it was just it showed up in the end. Um, between Steph, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, Steve Kerr, all the other veterans that they have on their team, um, along with young talent. They I said that they would win in 6, but they won in 7. But I still got the pick right. The Warriors, they their experience showed out over the younger, more energetic Rockets. But I think that the Rockets too are our team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. They have the other twin, Amen Thompson, who did as good a job as you can hope for a young player trying to guard Steph. I know he was guarding Steph for a good part of the series, and he was in Steph's pocket for a little bit. He was a pest to him. Um, but they have they have a good core between him, Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun. I think that the Rockets should continue to build around those guys and to um, yeah, Ime Udoka is a good coach. He knows what he has. It's a really similar to those Boston Celtic teams that he had in their infant stages of the team that we see now. When he had Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, um, he's got a similar group in Houston, and I think that Houston, they're going to be good. They're young, but they're up and coming, and this was a good experience for them to play some high level basketball. So they'll be around um, for the future. The other series that I thought was really good in this first round um, was the Nuggets Clippers series. That series was good for about 6 games, six and a half, six and a quarter games, and then the Nuggets they just took it over in Game 7. That series had a little bit of everything. Some really good play, some high intensity, some trash talking, some chippiness. Um, that was a good series, and I thought that the Clippers would win. I thought that you know James Harden in particular would finally erase the Game 7 ghosting narrative that has lingered with him throughout his entire career. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that. James Harden once again did not show up in a crucial winner take all game. Um, 7 points from one of your best players. Um, that's just not going to cut it. Kawhi Leonard, he he was solid, but overall, overall, um, you know, they the Nuggets just wanted it more. They just wanted it more, and it smelled blood in the water with the Clippers, and they really put it on him um, in the second half of that Game 7. Um, and unfortunately for them, this is I think this is what James Harden's legacy is going to be. I'm talking about James Harden in particular, one person. This is what his legacy will be as a um, perennial playoff disappearing act when you need him the most. You need him to show up in the biggest games. James Harden disappears. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Um, that's his that's his MO. That's what he does until unless he can prove it. If he's ever able to have the chance to prove that again, um, is to be determined because James Harden is not a spring chicken anymore. James Harden is 35, 36 years old. Um, you wonder how much longer he can continue to be the focal point of of a basketball team. I know he calls himself a system, but systems break down. And I'm not saying that he's breaking down. I'm sure he can still play. I'm sure he can still he can still turn back the clock to the great scorer that he is. But in the playoffs is where people remember you the most. And James Harden and the playoffs, particular elimination games, do not do not mix well. So uh yeah, but the 6 games prior to that, it was a back and forth. It was a back and forth affair. Um, this Nuggets Clippers series that I'm referring to, it was a back and forth series. It was a good one, and that's what really made the first round. And then you have the other series, OKC, short work of Memphis, Boston, fairly short work of Orlando. Miami, I thought that with their grit and their experience, they might take a couple of games off of Cleveland, but I mean, I was wrong. I was wrong about that. Cleveland, it wasn't even close. Cleveland swept them, but the series was really over by halftime of Game 3. I mean, Cleveland, they just ran all over Miami. Miami didn't have a chance. In fact, it was so bad that Eric Spoelstra said that something about he had never that was a bad humbling that his team got, and he's right. It was ugly. Cleveland, they ran Miami. They ran Miami right out of South Beach. Forget the stadium. They ran them right out the city. It wasn't pretty. Um, and the other series, the Lakers and the Wolves, I was shocked. I said Lakers would win in six, but the Wolves had other ideas. They promptly finished the Lakers off in five. And this Wolves team, and I'll talk about them later. They're for real. And Anthony Edwards, he is him. He's a certified uh, legend killer, legend destroyer. He's getting a reputation for taking out some of the game greats in their twilight years. He's letting everybody know that he's here and that he's not going anywhere. And I'm excited to see. Uh, I'm excited for this next series that they're going to play. As far as the Lakers, um, LeBron James, I'll talk about him on another segment, but he's got a lot to think about this offseason, as does Luka. Now Luka is he's obviously he's not going anywhere. He's 26 years old. He's just now. I don't even think he's still entering the prime of his career yet. But that just shows you how good he is. He's he's I'm not worried about Luka Doncic. He's going to have the Lakers in contention, but the bigger question is what LeBron James is going to do for his career going forward. So, um, yeah, the first round, like I said, it was great. It was very entertaining um to see some good series. Couple of 7 game series that went the distance, and now the um the semifinals begin, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the semifinals matchups. And I'm going to start on this segment. I'm going to talk about the Eastern Conference semifinals. Now I know um, that yesterday the the Eastern Conference semifinals between the Cavs and the Pacers began, but I wanted to wait until um, the first round was officially over between the Warriors and the Rockets. Now, I know what happened in game one between the Pacers and Cavs yesterday. I know the outcome of that, but I'm going to speak about this series from the perspective that it hasn't started yet. So that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to talk about uh, the two the two second round matchups that we have slated in the East. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about them, and then I'll talk about the Western Conference semifinals. So the first one, as I mentioned, is the Pacers against the Cavs. Give me 1 second. Run a little low on battery power. Had to give it some juice there. But Pacers and the Cavs. Now these two teams met in the regular season 4 times. They met 4 times, and the Pacers, I believe, won the regular season series. Yes, the Pacers won the regular season series against the Cavs. It took 3 or 4 from them, so that's a that's a. I'm sure the Pacers are probably feeling good about about that fact. They probably have that in their back pocket. But again, playoffs the playoffs are a totally different animal. It's one team that you met earlier in the regular season has success against in the regular season does not equal to success against them in the playoffs. Get the Knicks and the Pistons. Pistons handled the Knicks 3 out of 4 games in the first round, and then the Knicks come back and then they promptly end the Pistons season. So it doesn't always equal to not all matchups are created equal. All right, not all matchups are created equal, and the Cavaliers, they're a good basketball team, and the Pacers are a good basketball team. They're almost mirror images of each other. I that being said, about not all matchups are created equal, the Pacers the Pacers are better suited to push the Cavs and potentially upset them because of the Pacers' style of play, because they're kind of like a track meet kind of team. I think that they can probably get a couple of games off against the Cavaliers. Now the Cavaliers still have one of the best um, guards in the game in Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland, he they didn't really need him in the first round because the Heat were such an inferior opponent. But the Pacers are a they're a much different animal than Miami. They're a much different animal than Miami, and is in large part it is because of Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton, he is he's one of the best guards in the game. Um, very seldom will he do things to put his team in jeopardy of losing the game. I think I mentioned it last segment that Tyrese Halliburton is very careful with the basketball. He's as good a floor general as there is in the game, and he's going to make the right play to to give his team um, chances chances to thrive. He's had a couple of 20 assist games this year. 20, I'm talking about like full stat lines with zero turnovers. Tyrese Halliburton can impact the game in any number of ways, and I don't think that the Cavs have anyone who can match him in terms of production. But um, the Cavs, the, the advantage to me for the Cavs is in their front court. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, both of them are solid rim protectors, but they can, or at least Evan Mobley, he's a capable scorer too. He's a capable, very good second or third option, um, scoring option for the Cavs. Um, Darius Garland, again, I go back to him. His health is going to be key in this series because I don't think he played at all in the Miami series, and fortunately they didn't need him. But as I said, um, you know, the intensity is going up a little bit, so they're going to need Darius Garland to have a chance to win this series because the Pacers are not a they're not a pushover. They're a track meet kind of a team. They like to run the floor. But they're scrappy too. If it comes down to it and they have to get down and dirty, they will they're not afraid to do so. So Cleveland is going to need to really refocus, and they're going to need to buckle up. Well, I don't want to pull up their chin straps, but um, they're going to really, what's a good, can I say, tuck their jersey tuck their jersey in, really, I don't know, really stand firm so that they can brace for the impact because Pacers are Pacers are coming, and they're coached. They have a great coach, Rick Carlisle, who's had his fair share of playoff runs in the past. Just last year, I mean, listen, the Pacers were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They were now, of course, they didn't do anything in the Eastern Conference Finals, but still, that just shows you that this team is not one to be taken lightly. So the Cavs, if they're going to do it, they're going to need everyone to be at full strength. And not only do they have to worry about guys like Tyrese Halliburton, um, Miles Turner, those are obviously the big names that you know in the Pacers, but you have other guys like Pascal Siakam, who is more than capable of of showing up and carrying the load for the team if he has to, and he has done that. He's one of their more underrated scorers. Pascal Siakam is, but then you have other guys like like Andrew Nembhard, you know, um, Ben Mathurin, T.J. McConnell. These are guys who aren't who aren't household names, but they can they can come in and they can impact the game in a way that you know can help lead the team to victory. Obi Toppin, um, Thomas Bryant. The Pacers, yeah, they're a they're a run and gun. They can be run and gun, but they can they can get in the mud and they can get down and dirty. They have some dogs on their team too, and they're not afraid to they're not afraid to mix it up. They've got the right blend of uh of speed and dog too. So Cavs don't want to be upset. If they want to, continue their chances of making a championship run, they're really going to need to be sharp, be on top of their A game. My prediction for this series, this is a it's funny because the deeper you get into the playoffs, the more you look at the matchups, you realize just how evenly matched the teams are. Um, I want to say the Cavs win in six, but I can't count the Pacers out. I can't count the Pacers out. They're being disrespected. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder too, because Tyrese Halliburton he was voted as the NBA's most overrated player, I think, and we saw what they just did to Milwaukee in the first round. Even though they didn't have Damian Lillard for most of that series, they still um, they still dusted Milwaukee like it was nothing. They may be single handedly be the reason that the Bucks go back into a rebuild because we don't know what Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to do. Um, so this has the feeling of a series that could go 7 games. And of course, if we go 7 games, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I'm going to say I'm going to go Pacers in 7. I think that this will probably come down to a game 7 on Cleveland's home floor, and I'm not trying to throw any shade. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Cleveland or anything like that. But I just feel like when it comes down to it, Pacers are better suited for for that prime time moment than the Cavaliers are. Now, if the Cavaliers win this series, I'm willing to give them respect. I'm willing to tip my hat to them. But I'm still kind of leery about trusting the Cavs. Still kind of leery about trusting them. So I'm going to say Pacers as the 4 seed upset the Cavs as the 1 seed in 7 games, and they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second consecutive year. And then in the other Eastern Conference semifinals matchup, we have a throwback to some old school to an old school rivalry, and really, I can't be mad at it, um, because the Knicks and the Celtics have such a deep rooted history against each other. I've seen some great matchups between these two teams myself. Um, back when Boston had the big three and the Knicks had Carmelo Anthony and J.R. Smith and some of those other guys, David Lee. Um, uh, yeah, this is if you're a fan of old school basketball rivalry and you're a historian of the game, then Knicks and Celtics is a good one. Pistons and Celtics is good too because they have old school. They go way back when it comes to playoff basketball as well. But Knicks and Celtics, this should be a good one. This should be a good a playoff matchup. Now, during the regular season, because they're both in the Atlantic Division, the Celtics and the Knicks they played each other quite often. And let me just see here. They played 4 times this season, and the Celtics won all 4 games. 2 at home, 2 at the Garden. So, the Celtics they have to be feeling really good about themselves. But again, like I've been saying, success on in one area does not always equal success in another. And the Knicks, they're 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 an excellent road team. They didn't lose. They won 3 games on the road in a really tough environment last round in Detroit, and so I think that will help them to go into an even more rabid environment in Boston and win. Now, this series is painted with with superstars. The aforementioned Jalen Brunson, Carl Anthony Towns, who's having a career resurgence after, well, I wouldn't say a career resurgence because he was doing good in Minnesota, but he's really taken off in New York. You have the do everything guy and Josh Hart, OG Anunoby. The Knicks have a really good team this year. I'm not even going to lie. The Knicks, they've got some depth. I look at this team, and they obviously have dogs on the team. I look at OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, um, Deuce McBride, Cam Payne, who really gives them good minutes off the bench. They've got some. They're a really good team. These aren't the same old Knicks that we've been seeing, you know, 5 years prior to now. This Knicks team, they've got the look of a contender, and they're hungry too. So I really can't count the Knicks out. But I also look at the Celtics, and the Celtics who promptly beat Orlando in 5 last round. They're the defending champions, and I can't overlook them either. The Celtics, they might just have the best player, the best 1-2 punch in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and that can go either way. Jaylen Brown, and he can be the best player on some nights, and other nights Jason Tatum can be the best player. They're literally 1 and 1A on that team. They take turns. They take turns, you know, wearing the captain's hat for the Celtics. So obviously, everything that the Celtics do runs through number 7 and number 0. And then they too have have great pieces around him. Derek White, who I last round I kind of compared to Robert Ory, the guy who does a little bit of everything, doesn't really excel in one specific spot on a team, but he can do a little bit of everything. He's willing to. Oh, I'm sorry, not Robert Ory. Rick Fox. I compared him to Rick Fox. He's willing to do the dirty work. He's willing to do the little things that might not seem important, but really uh, add up to helping the team get victory. So I I I I really appreciate him in that respect. I'm not saying I'm a fan of him, but I appreciate what he does. Um, and then you have other guys like Zingas, Drew Holiday, um, Cornette, Peyton Pritchard. You know, um, other guys. I feel like I'm missing somebody who who shows up for the Celtics. I just want to check their roster here. I feel like I'm missing. Feel like I'm missing somebody that I really need to show some love to. Um, okay, yeah, I pretty much mentioned. Oh, of course, Al Horford. Yeah, Al Horford, one and only. Yeah, they have guys on that team who who are who are good supporting role players too. So, um, it's really going to be a battle. I think it's really going to come down to um, who hustles more because both of these teams are known for their hustle. Both of these teams are known for extending themselves, maybe at a minor cost or major cost, whatever it is. Who's going to be willing to do the little things better? Who's going to be willing to dive for loose balls? Who's going to be willing to to take that extra hit or to be willing to draw a charge or things like that? Who's going to be willing to be the guy who's like, okay, yeah, we do all these things well, but you know, I'm 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 willing to, you know, get down and dirty, or I'm willing to, I'm willing to lose a tooth, or I'm willing to take an extra scrape or a cut, or I'm willing to, get a black eye in this respect. Who's willing to put themselves on the line more. And I think in that respect, I think the Knicks may have a slight advantage over the Celtics when it comes to who's willing to who's willing to extend himself just a little bit more. But in the grand scheme of things, when I look at this series, you know, overall, I just like Celtics more, just a little bit more, because of their ability to shoot the lights out. Now, if they can't shoot the lights out, if they're cold from three, then anything can happen. Anything can happen. But but you know, man, if the Knicks really want a chance to to beat this to win this series, they're really going to have to shut down. They're going to have to make the other players beat them. They're they're they really have to key in on the two J's because that's the series goes as they go. When one guy's down, the other guy is there to pick him up. The Knicks are going to have to make sure that both guys are down for at least 4 games, or if they're not down for 4 games, they're going to have to match their level of play. And just over the course of 7 games, I don't see the Knicks doing that. But I still have a great deal of respect for them. But I just don't feel like the Knicks can sustain that level of intensity, the intensity that's needed to corral the Celtics in this series. So that being said, I think that this will be a 7 game series as well. I think that this will be a hard fought series. I'm going with the Boston Celtics to win in 7. Um, and we're going to get a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals where the Pacers and the Celtics uh, go at it again. Um, yeah, that's my prediction. Pacers in 7, Celtics in 7, and that's how I think it will go. P's and C's in the ECF in the next round. It's a lot of letters there. It's a lot of abbreviations, but yeah, that's what I think. Of course, anything can happen. We know that if anything goes to a game 7, if the series gets to a game 7, pardon me, anything can happen. But it should be a really good second round in the East. Four teams that are deserving that are clearly establishing themselves as championship contenders. It should be really fun. It should be really fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Um, and see how it goes. I'll be back later with my thoughts on the Western Conference semifinals and who I think will advance in that round.